views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in a cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everybody, to The Grave Report with your hosts, Sandy and Russ Wells, from American Ghost Hunters, SJ and Russ Wells. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of The Grave Report. Tonight, our guest is Ghost Hunter Dan Norvell of Expedition Entity and the Ghost Hunter Dan Norvell Project. We've been friends with Dan for a very long time. I can't even tell you how long now, but a very long time. And we were very thrilled to have him on the show. Him and his partner Larry are really knocking them dead in the paranormal world. So we're going to let Dan tell you all about them. And so take it away, Dan.
You put me on the spot.
Yeah, I did.
Well, I'm Dan Norvell, and I have been chasing spirits since 1996. And in 2009, I formed a team called Small Town Paranormal, and we did investigations. Facebook was new at the time. Kind of took Facebook by storm. Had quite the following. We kind of segued that into the Small Town Paranormal family, where we ended up having 28 teams worldwide. We had teams in Ireland, Australia, South Africa, England, Canada. I can't even remember where all the teams were. But as all good things end up doing, that came to an end, and I took a little hiatus and came back with Small Town Paranormal and a new team. We did some investigating, started hitting it hard again, and then I kind of backed off again and wanted to do my own thing, and that's when I started the Ghost Hunter Dan Norvell project. Did my own thing for a little while, was working with different people, and, lo and behold, Larry and the rest of the team wanted to take up a home with the Ghost Hunter Dan project because Small Town Paranormal had then dissolved. And we've kind of been investigating ever since. Now, last year I did stop the team again because we had 5 people, and it was really, really hard to keep, to be able to schedule things around 5 people's schedules. So it was much easier to do it with just Larry and I. And Larry and I branched out. We started a production company a couple years ago, and COVID really hit us hard. Larry and I, we weren't going to be shooting paranormal stuff. We were going to be shooting commercial stuff. And we had an interest in some documentary stuff, but we never really, got started because of COVID. And we were, everything came to a standstill. I don't have to tell you guys that, And we were really starting to reevaluate if we were going to even do anything. And Larry and I had a long talk one night, and I was getting ready to just sell the stuff off, get what money back we could with it, and just be done. And Larry had an idea. Let's get back to our roots. Let's do the paranormal stuff, and let's turn Expedition Entity into what we've always envisioned it to be. We have the ability. Let's show it. So, against my wishes at the time, I followed Larry's lead, and we started shooting Expedition Entity, and we shot a couple episodes. We sent those episodes off to Natalie Jones at Paraflix, and she loved them. Natalie got a hold of us. We had a Zoom meeting. We got to meet and talk, and Natalie pretty much said, I'm really, really impressed with the work you guys do. I'd really like to have you. So we signed on with Natalie and Paraflix, and season 1 was out last year of Expedition Entity with 6 episodes. We are on tap for 6 episodes for season 2, and we're going to do the minimum of 6 for season 3. Our seasons are a little shorter on episodes. I know a lot of seasons are 12 to 18 episodes. With my job as a full-time corrections officer, and Larry is finishing up his bachelor's degree and going to move on to his master's degree, to do more than 6 for us right now is really tough to do. So Natalie's cool with it, and we're doing our best. And we actually sent a episode, Ghost of the Black Hawk War, that we shot in Stillman Valley, Illinois. And Sandy and Russ, you have been to that location with me, and it is definitely haunted.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And we sent that particular episode. We spoke with Natalie, asked her if it was okay, that we sent it out to some indie film festivals. And of course, Natalie was, yes, absolutely, go for it. And lo and behold, up till today, we've won 16 awards.
Wow.
And 2 of them were IMDb sanctioned, International Movie Database. And I am proud to say, Expedition Entity, if you go on to imdb.com and put in Expedition Entity, you will find our series there for the network Paraflix. And Larry's and my profiler there, along with anybody who's ever been on Expedition Entity with us. And we have 2 wins to our credit that were IMDb sanctioned wins for those particular film festivals.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
And I am happy to say that we have brought Steve Wren, one of our old team members, back into the mix with us. Our good friend Andrew Helton, who was also a team member, is going to join us for an episode in season 3.
Good.
Awesome.
And Andrew, of course, has a new baby, so it's kind of hard for him to get away. But I spoke with Andrew about the episode of season 3. He's up for it. So the team will be getting back together for that particular episode. And once the baby gets a little older, Andrew's always welcome to be with us. That's, just because we dissolve the team doesn't mean that we dissolve the family. And but right now, we have the 3 of us. And Larry and I were actually out today, as a matter of fact, shooting some content, and
Yep.
season 2 is being shot and produced right now. So
Right.
Well, I got a pretty good idea why you're getting those awards, and that's because, well, I've known you for quite some time, and I know the quality of your work.
You and Larry's work is
It's
top
impeccable.
notch.
Yeah, it's very good, and that's what people want to see. They want to see the real stuff. They want to see it raw, and they want to see what actually happens.
Mhm.
I mean,
and the thing is, and I can't say enough about Natalie, because she wants us to be real.
Yeah.
She wants us to put out the content that we want to put out, and she allows us to do that. And it's working out great.
Yeah.
Paraflix has been a godsend.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that I know, Natalie has spoken to us. She sent us multiple messages and emails that how proud she is that, we're winning these awards with this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just been a great relationship all around. And thankfully on April 9th and 10th, Natalie will be in Janesville, Wisconsin, along with our publisher, Mike Ricksecker, and a group of other people for the big Paracon up there. And Janesville's not that far from me, and I will actually get to shake Natalie's hand and meet her, shake Mike's hand and meet him, and a slew of other paranormal people. So it's going to finally be able to, put a face with a name. I mean, we've all done Zoom meetings and stuff, but you guys know as well as I do, being on video, the technology is great, but it's not as cool as being to actually be there with these people. So
exactly,
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Actually, you kind of spun into what my first question, so I'm just going to ask you.
Sure.
What are you now that you and Larry are on Paraflix and you guys you're doing the entertainment thing now, basically.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about? I mean, I know what you used to think about the paranormal entertainment, basically. So what are your thoughts now that you guys have kind of expanded out because of it?
I mean, everybody on Paraflix is so cool. There's shows on there and they have their own way of doing things, and which I think is awesome, because there's not one way to do this, and there's really no right or wrong, as long as you're not being disrespectful to the location, disrespectful to the spirits. Um, but I think Sandy, to answer your question, the reason I look at it different now is because Larry and I are in production mode.
Right.
And we've always wanted to do this, and the paranormal has been what we know.
Right.
So
exactly.
to be able to put what we want to do, which is production, along with what we love, which is the paranormal, is just, it's a match made in heaven for us. And the way we're doing Expedition Entity, we're trying to work. The concept for us is we try to work with different people, different teams, and go to their locations with them. And the payback for them is they get to be on an episode of Expedition Entity and showcase their location that they go to. And the payback for us is we get to investigate with some really cool investigators that normally we wouldn't get to do.
Right.
So, Expedition Entity has been a way for us to be able to do that and have us let us have something marketable to everybody else. And Larry and I we're on the road to bigger and better things, and it's not fun to drive that road alone. It's more fun to take the people that have always supported you, and you've always supported them back along with you.
Right.
And everybody that we've worked with, Steve and Josiah from Bartle and Henson Paranormal, two really good guys, two great friends. They have been with us in an episode at Conover Square, which is an awesome location, and they actually run tours out of there, and it's definitely haunted. Now, I wish we would have caught more for that episode, the particular episode, and by no way, way, shape, or form, if you watch the Conover Square episode on Paraflix for season 1, I feel like that's the episode that, just because we were shooting, we caught the least. But I'm here to tell you that Conover Square is always active, and Josiah and I had some really, really great dowsing rod sessions in there. We had some great ghost box responses, and you know, those guys are always welcome to be with us anytime they want, and you know, I'm always willing to go anywhere they want us to go. So
Right. Well, we've investigated with you and Larry a few times
yes,
over the years, and we're looking forward to coming back and doing something else with you guys, even if it's just watching what you do. I mean, I think it's really fun to hang out with people that you're like-minded with, and you
right.
enjoy everything that, we all enjoy everything that we do,
Well, one of my favorite things, I don't know about you guys, but and it kind of gets me choked up just riding around with Dan and Herky looking for graveyards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did that a lot.
I mean
Yeah.
that was so
Yeah.
much that was so cool because you just didn't know what you was going to run into next.
Yeah.
And at different places, different activity.
Mm-hmm.
But it was always something.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Illinois is a haunted state.
It is very. There's a lot of haunted places there.
You know, you got to stop and think. Illinois lays on one of the biggest, best, you know, veins of limestone
Mm-hmm.
in the whole world. And as we all know, limestone is a great conductor for paranormal activity.
Isn't it?
So,
It is. We know that for sure because the little town we live in, Concrete, Washington,
Excuse me.
is one of the most haunted places I've ever been.
Yep.
It sits on a bed of minerals, minerals and limestone and crystal.
yeah.
Plus, it sits right in the convergence of two rivers.
Yep.
It's right in that corner. So you got moving water, which produces energy. You got all the crystals and everything, and it's crazy. It's crazy haunted. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now that we covered that part, because I wanted everybody to know about your thoughts on the entertainment, because there's some in the past we've had discussions about it, and I just was curious. I was just curious because now that you and Larry have got moved ahead so far from maybe where you were a few years ago, even that I thought it was important that everybody knew that.
Well, you know, I've always had a lot of respect for Jay, Grant, Steve, Dave Tango. You know, I love watching Adam and Amy on Kindred Spirits.
Uh-huh.
I watch a lot of the shows myself, and I really like those people. Probably one of the best shows, and I enjoy it every time it's on. Is Haunted Collector, because I love watching John Zaffis work.
Yeah.
And those guys, people will always sit and say, how come there's so much activity and we don't ever see the lulls and stuff? Well, you got to think that when Jay and his team go to a location, they're spending a week there.
Yeah, at least.
And they're putting together an hour show.
Right.
And out of all the footage that's going on, they're showing you the top things that are happening. And that's what they captured in a week.
Yeah.
Now, Larry and I are putting out a 30 to 45-minute show, and we're showing you highlights of what we caught, but we're also showing you a lot of the sessions and investigation, but we're also sharing a lot of the history.
Right.
Not that they don't do that, but, you got to think that, TAPS is a very scientific-based team, which I don't have an issue with.
Right.
Larry and I kind of mix science and spiritualism and everything. I mean, we use dowsing rods, and I'm here to tell you it has enhanced our investigations by tenfold. We're using a new thing to us within the last year, the Phasma box, and it's some of the answers that we get it just blows your mind.
Right.
And what the Phasma box does is very similar to what a ghost box does if you put it in a Faraday cage. It takes out all the noise, and you're just getting the voices.
Right.
And you know, I have to thank my friend Dale Kazmarek for introducing me to the Phasma box, because the first time I ever saw him use it, and I love to watch Dale work. I feel very fortunate to have investigated with Dale a couple times, and it just it blew my mind. And I said, Dale, I gotta have it. And he said, oh yeah, you go here and get it, and it's worked out well. I mean, it's worked out really good for us. So, but a lot of teams don't use a ghost box, don't use a Phasma box, won't use dowsing rods. That's okay. That's what brings Larry and I answers. And Sandy, I've talked to you off the air just when we've been talking at night. You and Russ both, and Larry and I have never had issues communicating with spirits. And it's because we hold a lot of respect for them.
Right.
And Jay and Grant do. John Zaffis does. There's a lot of teams out there that do. There's some teams out there that don't. And I'm not going to name names and stuff. But I think that Larry and I try to show that you can still show the history. You can still love the locations. You can still be respectful, and you can still put out great content.
Right.
Without walking through places and yelling and calling names and dropping F-bombs.
Right.
Right.
You were
everything else.
Right.
And, so.
You were just mentioning earlier about the using dowsing rods and all that. One thing that I've noticed over the years of Russ and I being in this for so long is that, because we've always used spiritual tools to help enhance our investigations, but in all the time in the paranormal that you've been in it for since 1996, do you feel that others just doing it what they call scientific, right. I call it technology or whatever, do you see others adding more teams adding psychics as a positive move to better understand the afterlife? Because one thing we talked about when Kat was on the show with us on the last episode was how important it is to use people like me and Russ and you too, because you do have sensitive abilities, to use psychics in their investigations, because it's kind of like using a Phasma box or a dowsing rods or whatever that enhances you get closer to what you're really searching for, and that's the afterlife. So what do you think?
I think that it's a great thing, because a psychic or a sensitive is just another tool in your toolbox. The problem is when you start relying on them too heavy. You need to realize that the buck doesn't stop there, and you have to use every tool at your disposal to come up with these answers. I'm guilty of this too, of relying too much on the sensitive or relying too much on a psychic, and not letting my know-how or the other things speak for what's going on. I think if you make the psychic or sensitive part of everything that's going on, you're going to have a much more successful investigation. But I've seen it a million times, Sandy. Now, I've investigated with you, and you don't do that. You use all the tools at your disposal.
I do.
To help explain what you're getting. But many psychics, and I've watched it on shows, and I've watched it in person, will walk in there like they're king of the hill and start spouting stuff off. And the problem is I even had one person tell me one time, I was going to get the ghost box out. Oh, you don't need that. They've already told me what we need to know.
Right. You can't do that.
And no, because I can't go solely on somebody's word. I do have to have some sort of backup for what they're telling me that they're getting, or what they're being told, or what they're feeling.
Validation, and for any
Gotta
psychic,
validate.
yeah, and for any psychic that has any experience at all knows that. I mean, they we know that it has to be backed up in some sort of way.
You certainly hope they know that.
Most psychics that are good psychics want to be validated.
Mm-hmm.
Most psychics who either want to have their ego stroked,
Mm-hmm.
or are full of BS,
Mm-hmm.
are going to give you the scenario that I just put out.
Well, and the thing is, and when Russ and I go into an investigation, the first thing that we would do, this is when we had our team, first thing I would do would be walk through the house and get my impressions, and then after that, I was done unless something happened that was absolute during the investigation. I was done. After that point, I was an investigator.
Right.
And that validation for me, validation of what I'm picking up and what we're able to capture is like the icing on the cake. It's like one of those things that you want to have happen. And if you don't, and what you're picking up is validated by the history of the location, that's even a good validation.
Well, Sandy, I am a great sniffer of BS.
Uh-huh.
And I may get the wool pulled over my eyes for a while, but eventually the light comes on and my eyes are opened. And
exactly.
I've met a few that I don't want to associate with, and then I've met a few, and not only psychics but investigators. There's
Mm-hmm.
people out there that I don't want anything to do with, just because I don't agree with their style.
Mm-hmm.
And it falls the same with a psychic or a sensitive.
Right.
Most psychics and sensitives are very humble and just want to be part of the team and help get to the end of the investigation, get answers, for a family, if it's a residential thing that we're helping out with,
Mm-hmm.
or get answers for the location, or in our case now with Expedition Entities, get answers for the show. And there are some people that are sensitives and psychics that will be working with us on an episode,
Mm-hmm.
in future episodes,
Right.
and I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. And you should. I mean, I'm not kind of tooting my own horn here, but I think that my personal opinion, and I think Russ is kind of where you come from, and I am too. But when it comes down to what I pick up, and like I said, the whole icing on the cake thing is that validation, and if I get that validation, I kind of then I'm tooting my own horn, so to speak, because it makes you feel good that the spirits are willing enough to communicate to you what they're experiencing or who they are or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel good. It does make you feel good. So
well, the thing about it, Sandy, is there's so much bad stuff in the world right now.
mm-hmm.
There's a lot of negative stuff going on. We now have, we are closer to World War III today than we ever have been in my entire life.
Right.
And that puts a big shadowy cloud over the world.
Yeah.
With COVID getting over, how many people did we lose that we didn't have to? Or, I mean, the thing is when one bad thing ends, there's always 2 or 3 bad things to take its place.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of negativity in the world, and there's, you and I've talked about this, and I'm not trying to get biblical or anything like that, but
mm-hmm.
good, evil are in a constant battle, and right now evil's winning.
Yeah.
And we need to have those people out there trying to get those answers, trying to have those people on the other side tell us, hey, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, well, you're right. The total level or balance between good and evil is always there, and good is always usually on top. But the problem is you're right. There's so much going on that we think that evil is in charge right now, but they're not. There are so many light workers out there right now that, which are psychics or whatever you want to call them, are working hard right now to uh, I don't know, chase that energy, that bad energy away, and it's working. But only thing we see is because of the media. We see all the bad stuff. See, because that.
Well, oh, pardon me, guys. Oh, sorry about
Okay.
that. Yeah, I've had a long day.
Yeah.
The media plays a major role, and it's hard to even turn on the news anymore because it's just all negative.
Yeah, I don't.
Negative.
That's the number one thing that I don't know. I'm not. I don't want to go Republican or Democrat or Independent. And none of that stuff. It's what they all want.
Mm-hmm.
Fear.
Right.
Fear is control.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, and yeah. If you fear and you live in fear,
Mm-hmm.
fear's the mind killer.
It is. It is.
You can't go into these investigations with fear.
Thank you.
It's okay
Oh my God.
to be. It's okay to be. It's okay to be a little, fearful of things that could happen, and there's ways to protect yourself from letting those things happen,
Yeah.
so your fear level can be dropped way down.
Right.
And that's a whole nother show, but you know where I'm going with that.
Well, actually, when we were talking to Kata on the last episode, we were talking about that exact same thing. Is that fear is the ultimate in the destruction of minds and souls. And
Yes.
if you go into any investigation, I'm going to alliterate it again on this this episode, is that if you go into any investigation in fear, then don't do it. Don't go into that building or that house or whatever in fear, because that enhances if there's any malevolent spirits close by, they're going to hang on to you because
it's a
of
magnet.
that. Yeah, it's like a magnet.
Yeah.
So you have to protect yourself.
I've always said you got to check it at the door, but that's you can say check your fear at the door, and it's an easy thing to go. I've checked my fear at the door, but I got to tell you, done this for a while now. There's times where I've gotten into intense situations where fear does come in,
Sure.
but I don't know if it's fear, anxiety, anticipation. I think it's a mixture of all that, and that exhilarating feeling is why we do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've all have that fight or flight,
right.
thing in us, and that's an instinct that every single one of us have.
Mm-hmm.
And you either stand your ground or you'll run.
Right.
And the people who are investigating and ghost hunting and whatever you want to call it, my feeling is if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. So what I mean by that is I don't care if you call yourself ghost hunter, investigator,
yeah, right,
whatever.
Yeah,
right.
That's also another show, but
it is.
They don't tend to let the fear overcome them.
Right.
It's okay to respect those feelings, and if you feel that uncomfortable, when in doubt, get the hell out.
Right.
And
Dan,
something I heard Jay and Grant say years ago, and it's a very good term. And I mean, you guys were both witness to what happens when you're in doubt and you don't get the hell out, and ended up helping me deal with it. So
yeah.
I tend to, when you get that fight or flight feeling and something doesn't feel right, and You know, if either Larry or I or Steve, or if we're in a location and one of us goes, you know what, we need to get the hell out of here. Guess what? We pack our stuff and we get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
I've been in some really hairy situations where we just we had just gotten to a location and my what I call my spidey senses started clicking off, and I'm like, I said, guys, we have to leave. And they said, we just got here. We have to leave now. I'm not kidding. And we did, because whenever if I am that tuned in to something that makes me feel
Right.
that fight or flight thing, it's time to go. And that's the first time and the last time since that I had that happen. And it was like, and that's was one of those rare things where I just felt like I couldn't help what was going to happen. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
And the thing is, before we go on to the next question,
mm-hmm.
no matter how much in control of a situation in the paranormal that you think you're in, you're really not.
Right. Exactly.
So
You're not. I mean, it's like
you're not in control of anything.
Right. I mean,
other than your emotions and the way you're going to react to a situation that arises.
Right.
Those are the only two things you control.
Right. And the thing is that you can't control spirits anyway. People think they can, but they can't.
Right.
Because just like us here, as in the humanness of our society, right. we have free will and we have free choice. If a ghost chooses not to leave, they won't. But I mean, there's certain cases like, I mean, I know what you do, Dan. I call Dan my spiritual warrior because he is, but he doesn't think so. But he's one of those people that when he's dealt with some pretty hairy, malevolent spirits.
I say.
Yeah. And so now he's to the point where he takes it on his own shoulders and gets rid of them on his own. And that's exactly what he's supposed to be doing. And
I mean, I don't do that a lot.
No.
Because,
but you have in the past.
I have.
Yes.
And I've gotten some pretty hairy spirits off of people. I've gotten some pretty negative entities out of locations and houses.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the biggest one is off of people.
Yes.
A lot of people don't do that.
Right.
I do.
Yes, you do.
And I've been very fortunate in being able to do that. But the law of averages will eventually work against you. There will eventually come a case to where you're going to try everything, you're going to do everything you can, and it's just not going to be enough.
Right.
True enough.
And you guys know I hate to lose.
Yeah.
And right now I'm batting 100 or 1,000, but there will come that time to where
you'll run back across it again, where you have to deal with it all over again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And all you can do, the thing is, and I learned this in the police academy, you guys, is perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
Perseverance is what pays off.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you give up, when you say, I don't know what else to do, I'm done, and you don't try to turn it over to somebody with more knowledge than you, and you just walk, then you've lost.
Right.
And you know what the difference between the master and the student is?
Mm-mm.
The master's failed a hell of a lot more than the student has.
Yeah, it's like those challenges we have in life. Usually psychics, light workers, sensitives, whatever, have dealt with more challenges in their lives than most other people.
But in order to succeed, you have to fail.
Yes.
And the thing about failure is it teaches you to dig deep and to continue on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't do that, then you've already lost half the battle.
Right.
True.
Right.
It's the people that get thrown off the horse that get back on that become successful in, horse riding and
Right.
rodeos and everything else.
Right.
It's the guy who gets thrown off once and says, "Yep, I'm done."
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
yes, you are.
Yeah, because if you get back on, you're just going to be in that fear state of mind, and so it's not going to do you any good.
Case in point.
You may get thrown off 100 more times.
Right.
Yeah. Case in point. Evel Knievel. How many
Right.
bones did that guy break? But he would not stop.
Yeah.
Because it was the thrill. It's what he loved.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now I think it's crazy.
Yeah.
But,
Right. Me too. So so we're kind of talking about the spiritual side of things.
Yes.
Do you think that paranormal investigators, the more that it gets spoke of about using psychics and things like that in investigations or whatever, do you think that there might be a shift in their approach to use them, or do you think it's going to fade? That interest is going to fade away because they think because the technology they use, they have more power with that. You know what I mean?
Okay. I think the most important tool in a paranormal investigation is you and your intuition.
Yep.
Everything else just adds to that.
Mm-hmm.
We can use a K2 meter to communicate with the other side.
Yep.
The way that happens is they fluctuate the magnetic field and set that meter off.
Exactly.
If I didn't have that meter, I couldn't read that. Whether it's a K2, whether it's, there's 1,001 of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever one you pick, the end result's the same. The thing is that if you're not asking the right questions and you're not confident about what you're doing, all those tools, all those scientific tools out there isn't really going to matter because, the other side, and Sandy, you know this, they can see right through that stuff.
Yeah.
And intuition, and the number one thing is go with your gut, use your intuition, but also respect. You have to be respectful.
Yeah.
And when you go walking into these places, calling them names and dropping F-bombs and you bring that stuff to me, blah, 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 acting like you're, a hard ass. If I was a spirit and I was in my house and somebody came in and was talking that way to me, I wouldn't talk to them. I wouldn't interact with them. You can throw out 1,000 meters and I'm not touching any of them because you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody came into my house right now talking like that, guess what? I'd be throwing them out on their ear.
Yeah.
And because most ghosts and spirits, can't just freely throw you out on your ear because that would take a lot of their energy. They're not going to waste their time setting stuff off for you if you're going to be a jackass.
Right.
I mean, it's just the bottom line.
Well, it's just like if you were sitting in your house, Dan, me and you sit on your in your living room, your beautiful house, and sitting there and have somebody just walk in and start just
Screaming.
laying into us about this, that, or the other, somebody we don't know. How do you think we're going to react?
Well, being that you're ex-military police and I'm present-day corrections officer, somebody's probably going to get their ass kicked.
Yeah, I mean,
probably.
So that therefore, when I don't see the logic in going into somebody's location, be them alive or passed on, and being a jerk.
Yeah.
I don't want to use names, and I try to take the high road. And he's more of an entertainer, but Zach Bagans, this is something that he does all the time. And now he's got a very successful show, and that's all fine and good. But I think a lot of investigators get the wrong idea. I don't think that Zach actually believes that that's going to kick up activity. Yeah. Zach also tends to get possessed every single episode, but then miraculously gets cured and is on to the next. Right. You know, like I said, I'm sorry. I don't mean to pick on Zach. I'm sure he's probably, you know, a great guy. I think he's got a big ego, but whatever. But that's the only person that I, off the top of my head, that can think of that's not the way you want to conduct your investigations. Right. If you want to get interactions from spirits. Well, if you put negative out into the world, you're going to get negative back.
Exactly. Amen. And you know what? I was just sitting there thinking about something a lot of people don't understand, something that I understand very clearly because it's happened to me. And I don't know about other people, but in my case, we have proof that spirits can put thoughts into your head. They can also push you, shove you, scratch you, and all that stuff. And if you don't think that can happen and you think you can just take on the world, well, good luck to you.
Yeah. Because they can also pull your senses.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Which happened to you. I mean, so man, Russ got lifted up and thrown backwards 3 feet into a wall. I mean, if you think that can't happen, then you need to find a new hobby because it can happen and it can be very dangerous. So, you know.
Well, the problem with this is you just hit it on the head. Hobby. And yes, we all start out as being hobbyists in the paranormal. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want it to be a hobby and just something you do and it makes you feel better and you're helping people, fine. Yeah. I don't have any issues with that. You know what? I think the more people that are out there looking, the more probability we have of finally getting that answer, what happens after we die. Mm-hmm. The problem is that hobbyists, you know, which we all started there, because it's you stop and think, it's kind of a screwed up thing to wake up one day and go, I think I'm going to chase ghosts. Right. But there's a lot more people out there doing that now than there ever has been before. Right. The problem is that you got to be careful who you emulate. You got to be careful, you know. If people follow Jay and Grant from the old or Jay's new team, they're going to get a lot of valuable information and get some great techniques on how to communicate with the other side. Yeah. Now, you know, if they follow, you know, what Larry and I do, there's going to be different. You know, some of it's technical, some of it's the good old dowsing rods that have been around for 200 years. Mm-hmm. You know, neither of which is bad. Right. But when you emulate somebody who walks around and screams and yells and
or fakes evidence,
calls the spirits names and thinks that every single one of them is a demon, well, that's not. You know, let your own experiences form your future. Don't let someone else's experiences, and then when you go out and try to have that same experience that we both know is never going to happen, doesn't happen, so you get more peed off and decide to yell louder and use more cuss words. In the real world, that doesn't happen. No. And we all know that. Right. You got to think, you know, it's a show. Mm-hmm. And some of us are doing it for the history, and we catch what we catch and we put it out there. Some of us are doing it for the ego trip. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that Zach hasn't ever caught valuable evidence, because he has.
Mm-hmm.
He really has. I just would like to see him calm down and be an investigator more than an entertainer.
Right.
But being an entertainer is what pays his bills. And that's okay. You just got to remember that everything that you see him doing isn't necessarily right.
Right.
Exactly.
I'm not saying, I'm not saying that it's not right for him. It's just not something I would choose to do.
Right.
And I have a track record of the last 12 years of Larry and I working together and never having a problem communicating with spirits, and we don't get pissed off and we don't start yelling and calling them names. We remain calm, we remain respectful, there's times that the spirits aren't respectful to me, and I'll sit Maple episode of Expedition Entity season 1.
Mm-hmm.
They called me names in there and cussed at me, and I said, well, if you don't want to remain respectful, that's your choice, and I would rather not talk to you, but I'm going to keep it respectful.
Right.
And I moved on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you have to do.
Well, as far as investigations go, there are really no right or wrong way to do the investigation. No. But the problem is a lot of people, at least the newer people, they base their knowledge off of what they see on TV. Right. And yes, they are doing the right things, but you cannot just use technical equipment and base everything that you do off of that. You have to, once you become an investigator for a while, and I don't care what anybody says, you become somewhat sensitive to, you can walk into a building and say, oh yeah, this place has got activity in it, without even running a tape recorder. I mean,
Well, and the new ghost hunters, it's Jay's daughter, it's Jay, it's Steve, it's Tango.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't hear them screaming at anybody.
No.
You don't hear, they go in and they do what they do. And, if something feels bad, like I said, when in doubt, get the hell out.
Right.
I mean, they're still falling back on that fight or flight, that inherent sensitivity that we all have. Right. And, I mean, we all know if it doesn't feel right when something's off.
Mm-hmm.
We all get it. It doesn't matter, because it's an instinctual thing. It's bred into us as human beings.
Yep. Right.
It's just like when I was a firefighter, you guys, there's something wrong with somebody who would run into a burning building. Just not put together the right way. But if there wasn't people wired that way, how many people would have died because no one went in there to do something about it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And ghost hunting's much the same way.
It is.
Why would anybody go out and stand in the middle of a cemetery and try to get a dead person to talk to them? I don't know. That's crazy. Yeah. Because of all the things that could happen. But if nobody tries, how are we ever going to answer that question?
Right. And you know what, Dan? I actually read an article, and we talked about it on the last episode, but I got to tell you about this because I forgot. I haven't told you about this. I read an article from a psychologist who says that people that believe in the paranormal are lazy-brained. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, all the stuff that we do, not only for ourselves, but for people in the spirits too, how could anyone call us lazy-brained? Because we drive hours on end sometimes to get to an investigation, and hours on end setting up or whatever, and then hours on end back home after it's over with. And sometimes till dawn we're there,
All I can say, Sandy, is there's a lot of educated idiots.
You ain't kidding. Unless they know exactly what we do, how could anybody even speak on it? That's something that's always irritated me,
Just because you have a piece of paper that says doctor it doesn't mean you know anything.
Right.
It just meant that you were very good at the way you studied and passed your tests.
Yeah, and Dan, I have my bachelor's in metaphysical sciences. I'm currently working on my master's and then onto my PhD. But it's because I wanted to. It wasn't really for the title so much as it was for learning more than I already knew after 40 years of investigating, and about the afterlife and whatever else rolls into that ball. So.
Well, I mean, and I spoke about him earlier, and I'll say it again. Dale Kaczmarek's probably forgotten more about the paranormal than I'll ever know. And if there's anybody who should be called doctor that I know, I would love to call him Dr. Dale Kaczmarek, because Dale is one of the most knowledgeable people in the paranormal today that I know. And like I said, I've had the good fortune of working with him and hope to do something with him here again soon. The thing is that, if you're going to use that degree to degrade other people, then it's really worth nothing. If you're going to use that degree to help you have more of an open mind to learn more, well, then it's a valuable piece of paper.
Right, and that's why another reason I did what I did, because I like 42 years of investigating, and I consider myself pretty knowledgeable. I consider myself a paranormalist, not a paranormal investigator anymore, because the paranormal goes way beyond what we do as investigators right now. But
the thing is, in a nutshell, is you can choose to encourage people and help them grow and grow with them, or you can cut them down and belittle them, and you really think that's helping you grow, but it's not.
No.
All it's doing is showing everybody how much of an asshole you are.
Right. And
I've met a lot of doctors, medical and, PhDs, that don't know shit from apple butter.
Right.
And then I've met a lot of doctors that are damn good doctors, medically in the hospital or with their PhDs and whatever, that are just absolutely phenomenal doctors.
Right.
And the difference between the guy who passes their medical board with a C or a C minus, and the difference between one that passes with an A plus, at the end of the day, when those test results come back and the state says, "Congratulations, you passed the test," they call them both doctor. And so, that all holds true with how you conduct yourself. The bottom line is we don't have to have doctors to answer this. Just treat people the way you want to be treated.
Right. And
treat the spirits that same way. And I'm going to guarantee you will be successful in the paranormal or in whatever you do.
Right. Well, the whole thing is what I've learned and what I've gathered knowledge about is always my goals, Russ's goals, always been to help other people understand it better than maybe they do now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I both done a lot of shows. We've done a lot of shows together. We've done a lot of shows with people.
Yep.
And I listen to a lot of podcasts. I watch a lot of your guys' shows. I watch a lot of Miranda shows and Len Dorman and Greg Coase and all these guys that are just awesome investigators. I think the world of all of them. And the thing is that they're enthusiastic. They love the subject. They want to learn more, and that's what's going to catapult this forward and keep it going. And then what Larry and I are doing is trying to help provide the catalyst to get those people out there along with us and learn together. And Larry's and my aim as producers is to make them and their location look the best we possibly can.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
So
definitely.
I've shifted gears,
mm-hmm.
in the way that I do stuff,
right?
Because I'm still investigating. But it's so cool to be able to investigate with those people and try their techniques and listen to their approach. And you may learn something that, oh my God, I should have been doing this the whole time.
Well, the thing is, if you don't learn something new in the paranormal every time that you go out and explore it, then you're not learning anything.
Well, Sandy, I was a firefighter for 16 years, and every time I put my gear on and went to a fire or a EMS call or whatever, I learned something from each and every one of those calls.
Right.
And the day you quit learning is the day you need to hang your fire gear up, because now you're going to hurt someone.
Right.
Let me rephrase that. The day you have the attitude that there's nothing else you can learn is the day you need to hang your gear up and walk away, because you're going to hurt someone.
What do you think?
That's life.
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, that's life. If you need to learn something new on a daily basis, there's always something.
Yeah.
And especially like
stuff every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The thing is I said this in a blog a long time ago. I wrote a blog, and the way I phrased this was, if you close your mind off to the possibilities, you decrease the probability that you'll ever experience anything.
Yeah, my two favorite words in the paranormal.
You have to have an open mind.
My two favorite words in the paranormal are possibilities and variables.
Right.
Because
mine are possibilities and probabilities.
Yeah. Basically the same thing.
Basically.
Yeah. So anyway, Dan, we just swung right through a whole hour.
Dang.
And you didn't even get to ask all 5 questions.
I didn't, but it's okay. They all ran. You pretty much answered them anyway, so I didn't have to ask them. But thank you, Dan, as always.
You're welcome.
A lot of people don't know this.
For having me.
A lot of people don't know this, but the first podcast Russ and I ever did was, excuse me, Para Explorers Radio on Blog Talk years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
And Dan was our first guest, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah.
So
a long time ago.
we've investigated together. We have been. We've ate dinner with Dan in his house. It's just so we've been together as friends for a long time, and we pretty much believe the same things. But sometimes, I tell Dan things, but he says no, I say yes. But that's okay.
The thing is, Sandy, is we as friends put our friendship first, and we can agree to disagree.
That's right.
Right.
But that's the thing that this whole country needs to get back behind is agree to disagree.
Yeah. But remain friends. Just because I believe something or you believe something doesn't mean that we can't talk about it.
That's what our country is about.
It is.
Right. And it doesn't mean that either one of us are wrong.
That's right. No. It's just how you perceive it, or how I perceive it, or how Russ perceives it, or the whole world.
Perception is a lot of what you believe is how you, like you just said, Sandy, how you perceive it.
Mm-hmm.
True enough.
And what I perceive in a situation and what you perceive may be 2 different things.
Well, yeah, and psychics are the same way.
And that's okay.
Psychics can perceive things differently, but that doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means the spirit may be telling them more than about something they're telling you. And so
two psychics can stand in the same house and get totally different things, because the same spirit might not be communicating with each one of you.
Exactly.
So, and that doesn't mean that because one didn't get the same message as wrong, it means that they're probably not talking to you.
Right. Yeah. You're not tuned in together, like Russ always says. It's like a radio, and our vibrations tune in to certain frequencies, and
absolutely.
So anyway, Dan, thanks so much. I know you're retired, and I appreciate you coming on and doing this with us.
It's okay. I had a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, have a good night, buddy. Get some rest, and we'll talk to you next couple days.
All right, guys. Take care.
Yeah,
Later,
you
buddy.
too. Bye-bye.
Dan's cool.
Dan is an awesome guy. He's come a long way since even just a few years ago, and we're very proud of him and Larry for all the awards that they're getting for their work.
Well deserved.
And it is. It's very well deserved. So I want to also thank Larry if he's listening, if he listens to this podcast. Thank you, Larry, for being such a great team member for Dan, and you guys just keep doing the great work. I know your production stuff is.
A lot of people don't know Larry's our adopted stepson.
Yeah, we've had Larry adopted for a long time. So anyway, you guys take care, and we will see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Normal time, and our guests will be Josiah Henson and Steve Bartell of Bartell and Henson Paranormal.
Going to be a good one.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. And I'm not sure who after that. So we will talk to you guys soon. Have a great night.